I think it actually lasts.
Hello all, we are the students of IMI New Delhi, PGDM first year. Today, we are going to present our final presentation for the strategic management subject. We are going to discuss about the paint industries, that how the value chain of this industry works and what are the strategies used by this industry. Basically, we will cover Asian paints and Berger paints in this industry. Let's deep down in the details of these companies. Before discussing about the companies, we would like to let you know about the history of the paint industry. In the pre-independence era, we have limited domestic producer of the paints, and that's the reason we used to import the paints from the other countries. But post-independence growth, we've seen a huge domestic boom in paint manufacturers, which led to steady growth in our country itself. Then there was a shift to emulsion paints, wherein we transit from solvent based paints to water based emulsion paints. After that, when liberalization in 1990s took place, the entry of international players became very easy, which led to increased competition and innovation in the paint industries. Then came the rise of Asian paints. Asian paints became the market leader and has maintained its dominant position. After that, there was a technological advancement in the paint industry. Low VOC and eco-friendly paints were used and manufactured. Then there was a boom in the real estate and infrastructure area, which led to increase in paint industries as well. After that, there was an expansion of the market. Earlier, it was limited to urban areas, but then it shifted to smaller towns and rural areas, which increased the bandwidth of the paint industry. Then we came across the digitalization and e-commerce of the company, wherein we adopted digital platforms and e-commerce for the marketing and for the distribution. After that, COVID-19 happened. And this shifted the demand curve in a very negative manner. But there was a positive hope as the home improvement concern among the people arise and they shifted towards that. After that, government initiatives were taken like Make in India and Housing for All, which boomed the paint industry again. Then we had sustainability and regulations, which means that stricter environmental regulations like the lower VOC and sustainable efforts, which led to eco-friendly paint industry products. After that, at a conclusion, I would like to say that paint industry were earlier just the product-based industry, which like used to sell its products only. But now they have customized their products like in a manner you will find the paints which does not let the mosquitoes sit on the paint and improves and protects you from various diseases. And also, it has now shifted its curve to the service based industry. It is more into delivering the services like the um, people will come and they will paint your house as well. So, it is now a mixture of both the product and service industry. So, that's about the history of paint industry.
So let me introduce you to the positioning of the industry. So currently it is one of the growing industry, especially in the Asia region, because in the Asia Pacific region there is a rise in developing countries such as India and China, because of which lot of infrastructure and construction development is going through. So that's why it has lead to rise in the paint industry. Coming up upon the position and market share of the paint industry. Asian Paint is one of the largest market share here, with a market share of 59%, and then comes the Berger Paints, which has a market share of 18%. These two are the basically the major market shareholder in the paint industry, and they have a like a dominant role in the industry. And these paint industry also have other than paint has a huge range of product, which is from which is we can basically divide it into decorative paint items and into industrial paints. So in basically in decorative paints there are paints for house and the buildings, And for industrial paint, there are paint for automotives and construction and manufacturing things. And coming to the current market trends, basically after COVID-19, people has gone like more eco-friendly and health conscious. So paint industry has also evolved in that, and they have basically evolved their positioning and their painting things. The demand for eco-friendly like low VOC and sustainable paint is has been grown after that, and this digitalization has also occurred in the paint industries from e-commerce, and there are customer engagement to online platform are also there. So basically, the paint industry, especially Asian Paint and Berger Paint, are mostly focusing on service sector of the value chain of the paint industry. They are basically providing end-to-end solution for any home or any end user, and their companies are also hugely investing in research and development to create innovative products with the improvement in the properties and durability of the paint, and also trying to achieve net zero and net zero carbon footprint in their industry. Uh, Now coming to the Porter's forces model for the paint industry, the threat of new entrants is basically very low, because there are no as such barrier or no significant technology specification that are needed in the industry. So any new company or any new party can enter the industry, but it has a huge investment in that. Basically, you need a lot of manufacturing and distribution network to enter the market. So there are basically some of the market shareholder that will create a problem in that. But as overall, there is no as such limitation to that. Any new partner, any new company can enter in that. And coming to the bargaining power of supplier, so basically the old companies in the segment has a good relationship with the supplier. Uh, basically supplier equipment of the raw materials such as pigment and chemicals basic affect the profitability of the company. So the companies that are prior there have a good negotiation and relationship with the supplier, so that's why they can increase their profitability from that. And bargaining power of buyer is also there, as individual customer in such a country like India and China basically have a price sensitive are basically price sensitive, so they are like want to switch to companies for getting the better price for their paints. And I would like to invite Falguni for the further.
Navid, before we
So,
go ahead, I think we should discuss the previous slide first. Can we go back to the previous slide?
Yeah, sure.
So in the product segmentation, like it's mentioned that the industry segmented into decorative and industrial paints, and these days decorative paints are in much demand. So the market share, I also think that the market share must also be influencing uh, this decorative paints part too, right? Because the companies who are these days innovating more would be inclined, the customers would be inclined to go and buy that company's paints more,
Yeah,
isn't it?
definitely, because as we are seeing that there is a shift in the market trend nowadays, and people are going to buy are trying new things and new technologies things. So there we can see there are more demand for decorative and eco-friendly things. Now moving on. So the threat for new substitute will be carried forward by Falguni.
so, as we know, paint is a kind of capital intensive industry, and so for that reason, in spite of not having any kind of structural barriers by the government, there are still various strategical barriers which stop the new substitute to enter into the new entrants to enter into the market. And for the same reason, similarly, the way we use paints in our houses and in our day-to-day lives, there is even no other substitute for paints which has been developed by the people in India or around the globe. At the same time, when we talk about the competitive rivalry, since there are no barriers as such in terms of structural barriers, so there's no stop to the rivalry in that sense. But since it's a capital intensive industry, so the strategical barriers which have been imposed by the pre-existing companies, which is in our case the Berger Paint and the Asian Paints, very few people are able to enter the market and predominate the market, which is already established by these countries over various decades. At the same time, both the companies and even the other countries which are existing currently have product differentiation, which they are doing by way of including various types of paints, the various services which they are now incorporating in their value chain structure. And because of this, the high product differentiation, the competitive rivalry between the existing companies is also high. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the pestle analysis of the paint industry, we have taken into consideration the past year data of around 20 years, which we got from both the companies' sites, since they both are listed. And on basis of that, we have created a projection for the next 10 years, which is giving us a range from where the profit can go. So when we talk about the major influences, the forces which will be influencing this future trend, so they can be majorly done with the help of the pestle analysis, whereby political is one such factor which is majorly dominating and influencing this industry. If we talk about the current changes, so if we look at the graph, so in year 2019 and like from year 2020 to 22, in spite of having COVID in between, there is a high rise in the graph. So various initiatives by the government, such as the PM Awas Yojana, were launched in the country, which significantly helped the paint industry. At the same time, when we take into consideration the economic factors, so the way the economic status of the people in the country is changing, that has also influenced the industry in huge senses. The way people are mobilizing from villages to cities, and here the concept of owning one house per family has boosted up the paint industry, because with a change in the way we are living nowadays, the social impact it is creating on us is huge. Where just for the sake of FOMO or similar things like that, people are now trying to copy each other, and the trend which used to be of painting the houses in 4 or 5 years earlier has now shifted to in painting the houses in a year or two. So this has significantly influenced this industry as a whole. When we talk about the when we talk about this entire thing, this is majorly because of the pay commissions which have been imposed by the government, like the sixth pay commission which was imposed around 2009, when we can see there's a steep high in the graph of the Asian paints, and the seventh pay commission which was recently introduced. When we then talk about the technological changes and advancements, as my friends already mentioned earlier, there are various significant changes and innovations taking place all around the world, which have added various values in the type of paint the industries are delivering. Yeah, not talking just about these two companies, but overall, the way the paint is delivered, the way the service component is added into it, the color palettes, the way the consumer is now experiencing the paints, either while they are going onto the shops or the dealers, or even if they are coming into their homes and giving them an insight of how their house will look after the paint thing. So all these technical advancements have helped the industry to grow as such. Uh, but when we talk about the environmental factor of the pestle analysis, the way all the countries all around the world are focusing on creating a sustainable environment in future for us, this has increased the regulations to be imposed on the paint industry as such. For this, the paint industry overall is now trying to focus on more and more on the green and sustainable paint, so that they can paint at the same time without harming the environment. And because of this environmental reason, the legal restrictions which are imposed have now significantly increased because as the data here suggests that on 31st December 2020, 79 countries which were legally binding the controls, and 41% of all the countries all over the globe have some or the other kind of restriction imposed on the paint industry, and India is no other from those countries. So, with the kind of pestle analysis the paint industry is having, by following a certain rules and regulations, taking into consideration the environmental factors, and implementing the technology, the paint industry has been doing well over the past few years and is on the growth pace still now. Next slide, please.
Before going to the next slide, I would like to add to the technology part that you said. The technology has completely revolutionized the paint industry. Like you mentioned, like different palette colors, like minimalistic approach is being preferred nowadays by people. So yeah, technology has played a huge role in revolutionizing the paint industry.
Indeed, with that, I will also like to add the kind of capacity increment which the companies are doing. Like here, it's very clearly mentioned, like in year 2009 and 10, Asian Paint itself introduced an around 1.4 lakh liters of capacity per annum a plant in Tamil Nadu, which has significantly shown, like as being shown in the graph, has increased its capacity and made it a market pioneer. And this is the way now the companies overall are trying to take up their manufacturing process as well.
And also these things are being done keeping in mind the environmental changes too, right? Like
Indeed.
nowadays, yeah. Okay, so coming to the next part, coming to the SWOT analysis, one of the biggest strengths of Asian Paints is its a strong brand reputation and recognition amongst the different countries of the world. Because of its diverse product portfolio catering to various segments, and it's also huge focus on the R&D part of the company. It led Asian Paints to create a strong brand reputation in different countries of the world. Also, extensive distribution network and market presence helped in this part. Coming to the opportunities, Asian Paints has a huge growth potential in the Indian real estate sector, keeping in mind the increasing demand for eco-friendly and sustainable paints. Also, it has a good amount of opportunity to expand in the international markets as well. Now, as for the weaknesses, because of the vulnerability of raw materials involved in making the paints and the fluctuation of prices in that, it could be a weakness for Asian Paints because it leads to different shifts in the demand, which leads us to threat that like economic fluctuations affecting the construction and renovation projects might lead to that. Also, the price competition is very high among the paint manufacturers, and also the currency exchange rate fluctuations for international operations could also act as a threat for Asian Paints. And then coming to Berger Paints, one of its strengths is its brand reputation. It is a well-established brand. It also focus like before a decade, it didn't focus that much on the innovation part, but because of the strong competition, it has started focusing on the innovation and R&D part, which has become one of the biggest strengths as well. For the opportunities part, it has a high opportunity to make sustainable and eco-friendly paints, to create to be more innovative in its products. And also the growth in construction industry it could also act as an opportunity for them. For the weaknesses, strong competition, as we know that Asian Paints has 59% of the market share. This could be one of the weakness for Berger Paints, and also the limited international presence. Like Berger Paints is present in very limited part of the world, unlike Asian Paints. And the threats involved, like supply, again the threats are the same here too, like supply chain disruptions, the price competition from various paint manufacturers, and also the substitute raw materials, the change in prices of them. Yes. Now we'll move on to the value chain part.
So next is the value chain. So as we know, it is a framework used to analyze and understand the various activities and the process that a company or industry goes through to create and deliver a product or services to the end consumer. For Asian Paint, it has a strong market position and a brand recognition allows it to maintain control over various aspects of the value chain, for product development to customer engagement, basically. This integrated approach has contributed to Asian Paint's success in the paint industry. While for Berger Paints, it operates mainly in the downstream portion of the value chain. It also has some influence upstream, especially in terms of sourcing and quality control of the raw materials. Berger Paint has a strong presence with the in all aspects of the value chain. The company is also known for its high quality products, innovative market campaigns, and the wide distribution network.
I'd like to draw an inference on that from the value chain perspective and from its SWOT. We could see that Asian Paints has the largest market share, and that could be because in the value chain, it has mostly in the upper part, and Berger has in the lower part. So that could be the reason, because that could be the reason of its market share being that high. And another thing being that this Asian Paints has a great strength in the sense that they've having too much data from early 80s. They had the first supercomputer with which they've been keeping the data and analyzing the needs at retailers. And currently they have a great just in time support, so the retailers don't have to stock too much of paints in excess. Coming on to the effect of change in basis points by 100 points. If it's by federal bank, it could lead to higher borrowing costs if the company has USD denominated debts or loans tied to USD backed assets. Borrowing costs would rise and potentially affect the profitability. Even though the profitability has a large margin, would still have an impact. Consumer spending again would have a hit because people would start building less buildings if they see the downward sloping economy, and people in general, if they have to take a loan for buying an apartment, would tend not to buy it. Again, would give downward slope to the part of Asian Paints and Berger Paints, the whole industry. And input costs might also rise as they import most of the raw materials from other countries, which tend to be paid in dollars, and dollar tends to rise if the interest rates are rising. And for economic conditions, the overall Indian economy, comparing the factors of inflation and employment, would also play a role. But currently seeing that the growth potential in India is really high, huge, and we are investing too much in infrastructure, and people are having greater amounts of income that could be spent. I don't think that we would have a large impact, negative impact on higher rates, unless it is really high, huge. 100 basis is doable. It's fine. We could handle that. And we'd like to thank you. साथ में बोलते ना.
So this was a small presentation from our end to you, stating all the major strategies which both the companies, Asian Paints and Bergen Paints, and the paint industry overall has used, and it's creating impact and value over its industry lifespan. Thank you so much.